All righty then. And we are live, live, live. It is Sunday, my goodness, Sunday,
It
July 30th.
Sunday.
It's Sunday. It is a Sunday show action vibes today. We are coming at you guys earlier than yesterday. Thank you all for hanging with us here in the stream. Thank you, Jonathan, for hanging with me while I am on the road, about to hit the road again. And so catching me in the mid part here. How are you doing here today?
I'm pretty good. I would complain about how early it is, except that I know you are a couple hours west. So I won't complain about that. But I've got my coffee, watched an amazing fish show last night, with well, we'll get into all of that.
Yeah, we will
And
get into all of that.
yeah, it was yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here.
It's gonna be really, really great.
Yeah, it's gonna we everybody listening at home will say that we were texting last night. We were all in a little bit of amazement. Ryan texted me after Fuego and said 30 minutes, and I said, "No way." But I don't look at the clock. Like I look at when set one starts roughly, and nowadays it's fairly reliable, unless it's a big swing like different venue, then it might be half hour earlier or whatever. But I look at when that starts, and then I know when set one is going to end. And after that, I'm just like, I know I have time to shower, and and then we'll have another set, and then I know we'll be done by 11:30. Everything else, I'm not looking at the time.
Not the timer you are. I tend to, if there's a big jam vehicle that starts, I just look at the clock and go, okay, where are we at? And
Yeah,
I
but it
just
was
like to know.
Fuego. Like
It was
Fuego is a
Fuego.
9 minute reliable, you know,
It's
chunk of
it's
time.
it's interesting. I got a text from a buddy who was at the show. I'm pulling up the jam chart on it right now as we're talking, because Fuego, it's such a fascinating song. Like, it had those just killer performances in like 2014. You had that SPAC version, the man
The
version,
man version.
Portsmouth, yeah, Portsmouth, Virginia. And then it kind of just like took a back seat and was just like a really heavy rocker. You had the jam filled version from 2017. Inglewood, the Forum has a really great jam from 2018. There's a killer one from Banger, but basically, like, that
Yeah.
Banger version to me from 2019 jump starts this run for the song where you have that. The MSG faux New Year's Eve show in April 2022. Last year at MPP, Dick's last year we got a good one, and then the Greek had an outstanding Fuego, and it all led up to this, which we will get to. We got a question here from a close friend of the podcast. Was there a my God involved from Brian? There were many my gods. There were a bunch of LFGs. There was speechlessness. We're going to get into it. So this was the second show of the MSG residency. We had a killer show last night, or Friday night, that you and RJ brilliantly covered here on the podcast. We're going to dive into this one. I guess before I just jump into the set list, coming off of the first show, which, as you guys appropriately discussed, being and I quote, hot show. Um, what were your thoughts kind of going into night two? It seemed to me that the band came in at a certain level of energy that I think is hard to predict or expect, and it kind of knocks you on your ass when it happens. Like, what were your thoughts going into the second night?
Eh, I try not to do expectations, right, Brian?
Yeah,
So I didn't really have any. I was like, well, Fish is playing well, and I expect that they will play well. That's it. And
there you go.
I think I was proven right. Uh,
I think you were. I think you were proven right.
I also said that they would start. Somebody on the internet's online was asking about timing, when they would start and when they would be done. I said, well, they'll probably start around 8 and be done by 11:30, and I was also right about that. So I got all my predictions.
The
Um,
beautiful thing about this band is we're going to get into specifically in set two, but it was a fun set one. But the beautiful thing about this band is it's impossible to predict anything, and
and
that is the joy in it all.
that's the most reliable thing about them,
Yeah,
is that they will defy any substantial expectation at any time,
Expect
good or bad.
expect the unexpected. So we kicked off last night with Back on the Train, faded into Down with Disease. We got the Dogs for the first time since the Animals show back in October of 2021. Bug, which was dedicated to Jovi. Sugar Shack, first time since Alpine 2022. Evolve, Horn, first time since Raleigh 2022. Foam, and then a Moon Age Daydream closer, which was the first time since Dick. So we got some songs outside of the rotation, a relative bust out, if you will, with the Dogs. But, we just got some fresh playing and a really cool Disease jam in the second slot, the second show in a row where we get a big, big jam in the second song of the overall show. What was your big takeaway from set one here?
Set the first. Well, I mean, Disease, I think, is the big thing. They played Back on the Train. They played that a few times this tour, which is interesting. I think it may be one of the most played songs on the tour so far. But I thought that was a strong opener. Didn't
Yeah.
go far, but Disease took off at 18 minutes. It's not going to garner any automatic donations to Mockingbird, but it was a pretty good jam. And then I want to say I was a bit shocked to hear them go into the Dogs
Hmm.
because they really haven't since the Animals show, which, and then I think it was kind of rare. I haven't looked at the gaps on that particular song, but they do not play that frequently. Um,
Yeah, no, that
eh,
song's only been played 16 times. It was the first repeat performance of a Chilling Thrilling song. It came the night after when it came out of a light and went
right,
into Lengthwise, and then it was played on New Year's Eve 2014, and it kind of seemed at first like this is good. This and Martian Monster are going to be the songs that we hear the most, and then it wasn't played until Magnaball, and then ever since what is that, Great Woods 2016, we just have basically an average of, I would say, 15 to 20 shows in between Dogs performances. So it's a pretty
yeah,
rare thing. This was by far the biggest gap though between performances.
yeah, and it was cool. It was cool to see, hear, whatever. I wasn't there, but I was watching it kind of on the internets, and I saw some people really disappointed by the Bug, Sugar Shack, and Evolve. Some people lumped Evolve into that
Mm.
section of the set. I can't see how Trey is going to not play Bug when he learns that Jovi's in the house. So, okay, it's not where I would expect it to be placed in a set, but honestly, I think it works fine in a first set. Um, they were probably about ready to slow it down a touch, anyways. Sugar Shack is Sugar Shack. I love Evolve, and excuse me, I have a hiccup from my coffee. Does that happen? Anyways, I was that's one where I where I picked up my guitar and I played along because that just the it's just so fun and kind of easy for me as a lightweight guitar player. And just a grand little song.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned this odd placement of Bug. I mean, I think obviously having Jovi in the house, that seemed to be a thing that was a very
It's given.
emotional moment for Trey. Understandably, you can see why he would want to play that, and I guess playing it there versus having it be a landing pad at some point in the second set allows him to introduce it and provide a dedication. And you got
Right.
to wonder if, like, going into the show, just with how they've been playing, there there's a sense in a lot of these second sets that, well, the song catalog is almost tossed out the window because it's whatever we're feeling as we're coming out of the jam, and so he's not going to dedicate something at that point in time. I didn't necessarily mind it in that slot. I think there have
Yeah.
been some really nice bugs in the first set that have just kind of foreshadowed brilliance later in the show. I think specifically of San Francisco 2021, that it opened that show, and then later we got a really amazing 4-song second set. Not saying those are connected, it's just like there's a vibe thing there with that song. For me, Sugar Shack is one of those that when Trey nails the solo, it is completely worth it, because that is a very complicated, weird solo that famously through early 3.0 he struggled with. And I still remember being at 12:30:16 and he just nails the solo, and it's just like perfect, and celebrating the way that I would a bust out, or the way that I would a huge peak in a jam. It just felt very significant and felt like a moment that we had arrived. And there's been some really quality Sugar Shacks in that standpoint. Evolve, I
Wait,
don't want to
wait,
call. Yeah,
Brian,
go ahead.
I want to put you on the spot here. Was
Sure.
this one of those Sugar Shacks?
I think that it was quality. I think that he got pretty close to being there. It felt really
Yeah,
good. I
I
think
agree.
ultimately, um, and it kind of speaks to a hyperbolic point that I had in my notes here. So maybe it's time to unveil that. I was thinking about this while listening to the Down with Z's and then the Fuego again this morning. I think this is the best pure play, the best pure playing that we've heard from Trey since Magnaball. He is stringing together full ideas without any sort of assistance from effects. We are getting, and you think specifically about that ending trill that leads into the Fuego callback. You think about that solo that is just complete hose in the Down with Disease, and there's no point where he feels like he needs to. And this is not a complaint about the synth pedals. I loved those. I loved what they did to the jams, but there is something about the way that Trey's guitar playing feels so lyrical, and nobody's ever described it better than Carlos Santana, where it sounds like it's just water coming out of a hose and just coating the audience. That sentiment and that sensation that is so special about his guitar playing, I'm hearing it in full clarity, and I'm hearing it in a way that I haven't heard it in probably 8 years. Not saying there aren't moments in between and there haven't been moments of brilliance, but it feels like whatever's happening in his brain is happening in his fingers without any sort of effort. And I'm absolutely loving it. And a song like Sugar Shack, caters to that. A song like Foam caters to that. A song like Horn with a really beautiful composed solo. You get not just these improvisational highlights, but you get solo highlights where you as a listener hear something the way that you heard it when you first were a Fish fan.
You're getting to you're jumping on one of my thoughts on this set, which is that after Sugar Shack, they go on to play Horn, Evolve first, but then they go on to play Horn and Foam. Actually, Evolve, I said I was playing, but I'm listening to Trey's solos through Evolve, and it's just glorious. And it's not the composed stuff that you get in Foam when you listen to Evolve, because it's just open changes that he can play over, and he knows them. There's just, and he can really just let loose, and then you get into Foam where it's got to be tight, and it was a really nice performance, and then gets to just blow off the last bit of steam for the set with Moon Age to close the set. What a blast!
Yeah, really nice placement there. I mean, anything from Ziggy Stardust, it's one of those Halloween albums. I'll take literally the entire album again. I love the way that they
Yes,
approach that.
yes,
It's one of my
please.
favorite albums of all time. I still remember when they were killing albums off with the axes and that outdated website. But one of my favorite gimmicks the band ever did. Ziggy stayed until the end, and it became a campsite. And it was my hope, because the sentiment of them opening their first festival in 5 years with the song 5 years, just it felt really right. And to hear that, it's 6 years later was incredible, or 7 years later. But yeah, no, there's a dexterity in terms of playing songs like Bug, and then Sugar Shack, and then Horn, and then Foam, and then rocking out like Moon Age, and really not hitting a ton of sour notes. My only other notes from the set, I think that my thoughts on Evolve are connected in this sort of sense, because I'm with you. I love this song. I think that lyrically it's really brilliant. It has almost there's like a childlike quality to it. And I think about like when that song was playing, my son and I were hanging out here in our hotel room, and he was just like singing the chorus. I was like, I haven't taught you that. Like, but like that's clearly connecting, like the rhythmic
Nice.
aspect of it and like the lyrical nature to it is hitting kind of all generations. But I was thinking during Horn, Horn Rift was my first Fish studio record. It was I'd heard Fish songs because of Bittersweet Motel. I'd heard a few Fish songs in other places, and then I went out and bought Rift. And Horn and Fast Enough for You, and these are songs that like hit at the first moment that the band was really taking personalized lyrics and really pushing them out there, and really showcasing who they are as people, and obviously who Tom was as a person at that point in time, as these guys are realizing the success that's in front of them, but also having personal challenges and life going on at the exact same time. And Horns always struck me as both musically, it's really fascinating the way that it changes keys midway, and yet it still sounds the same way to the uneducated ear. But as Trey's described, like it changes into this more melancholic tone. But then lyrically, it tells a really fascinating story. So hearing song like Evolve, Bug, Horn midway through the set, maybe a little bit too contemplative for some people on a Saturday night. I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it gave kind of a classic feel in a sense to set one, even though you didn't have the kind of balls to the walls energy and fireworks that we had on night one. I don't think you necessarily needed it.
No, no. And I think the contemplative bit, they almost kind of take that out of Bug by emphasizing the whole like Bug punch in the sky bit. They make it more of like a power anthem when they do it that way than when they land in it at the in the middle of the second set after a big jam. And then the intro was so delicate and kind of really poignant in its own way. So I like that they've kind of shifted that around. Horn, always loved Horn, such a
Mm.
powerful song and just a beautiful composed solo
Mhm.
that I've studied playing that, and you'll never hear me do it because I can't in any way that's worth anybody else hearing. But I love to just play those notes and study that piece. It's gorgeous, and yeah, I enjoyed the set. At when this set ended, I was like very satisfied and very excited, looking forward. Um, can I mention a couple things? Speaking of
Please.
looking forward,
Yeah.
um, really just one thing. So they had a happy hour on Friday night, and apparently
Mhm.
well attended, and very good time for all, according to Megan's report. And we have another event coming up on 8/5. That is August 5th, the last night of the MSG run. That afternoon at 3 p.m. at the bitter end. Cal Kehoe is bringing some friends to play. We're going to be, I think it's RJ, Megan, myself, and Brad are going to be there. And we're going to be celebrating the 10th anniversary of HF Pod. And pretty exciting. Did I say that it's at 3 p.m.?
You said 3 p.m. at the bitter end.
At the bitter end. It is brought to you by Volume and Bluebird Hardwater. And I hope everybody who is in town for the shows comes, hangs out, checks it out. We'll get you out of there on time to get to MSG. No problem. And because, I'm going to be heading up to MSG. So we got
You're
to
gonna
go.
be there for the
So,
finale. That's gonna be
yeah, it's
amazing.
going to
When
be rad.
you did the dozen 6 years ago, what did you hit this middle weekend, 7/28 through the 30th?
Let's see. I'm really bad at I don't understand how everybody else remembers the donuts and the dates and the things super
No,
well
they
together.
kinda
Um, so yeah, I hit the middle and then I hit the end. So I was there
nice.
on the last night, and
Very, very nice.
that was worth it.
I was in a
So
bar that was streaming the last night, and when they went into Isabella, the bar exploded as though we had just won the World Series, and people were pouring out into the streets, hugging
beer
each other. It
flying
was
in
it
the
was
air.
it was a
Yeah.
very memorable moment. All right, so jumping into set two here, we have they keep doing this. The faux, I don't know if you call it the faux opener, but like kind of the palate cleanser before we dive in. It's a nice touch. I like it. It allows people to get back to their seats, gives the free streamers something to dive in with. But we get the wedge, Fuego into Oblivion, into Wingsuit, into 2001, which has a direct as a direct segue as you can get into Hold Your Head Up, into Cracklin' Rosie, into Hold Your Head Up. and then Say It To Me Santos with an encore of Farmhouse and First Tube. One massive highlight in this set that we're going to talk about, another really brilliant kind of fusion of two elements of Fish that we love. But overall, what were your thoughts on this set?
I was, I mean, I loved it. As I mentioned at the top of this thing, I didn't realize Fuego went 30 minutes, but I knew it was big. It went a lot of places. And I'm going to leave it to you to break down some of those places because I haven't listened back. I listened to it last night and I was in bed when the thing dropped and I haven't been up that long. So, but it's massive. And you knew in the moment it was really doing something. I think that the Oblivion really does something in its much shorter time frame, which continues to give me kind of joy because I like that song and I feel like that song has got a lot of potential and will continue to be awesome. And I really liked the fade into wingsuit. That moment with Oblivion, it got nice and quiet. It
Hmm.
was settling down. And then Trey hits those first notes of wingsuit. That's how I want wingsuit to happen. Um, and it was great. Uh, but yeah, my number two highlight is probably Cracklin' Rosie.
Hmm.
Few, I don't know how many people were at home and jumping up on their sofas when that happened, but I was. When I saw the symbols, I was
That
like,
was it.
"Oh
That
God,
was it.
here we
Oh my god,
go."
it's happening. That was a moment. You don't see the symbols a lot these days. We
Yeah.
actually haven't seen them in 397 shows. This was the first Cracklin'
What?
Rosie since 7/6/2012, SPAC Night 1 2012, which is a show I encourage anyone if they have, there's so much good Fish, but if you have not gone back and listened to that SPAC 2012 run, there is so much gold in there. In this, the first night, I think the first set has like 17 or 18 songs, and part of it is because there are a few sandwiches, including a Hold Your Head Up, but it is so worth it. It is such great playing from the band, and the second set features some really amazing jamming that just like hints at where we would go in
Yep.
8-9 weeks time at Dick. But really amazing stuff. We also had, that was the first wingsuit since MPP last year, 43 shows. So again, trying to bring some of these songs out of the rotation, or out of the distant realms of the rotation, the Kuiper belt performances, I guess, would be the Cracklin' Rosie, the asteroid belt return pass by of Earth would be the wingsuits. But
On
go
that
ahead.
note,
Yeah,
I want to interrupt you with a question so
yeah,
that you can then
please.
keep talking. But do you think they're pulling these songs out because we're going to get a no repeat MSG? Is it too soon to ask that question? Have I jinxed it?
No, it's an interesting question. I've been thinking about it because, there were all those kind of rumors going around online based on the band's social media that, oh my God, there is going to be a theme again this year. And it appears as though there is no theme, and that the theme hints were a joke, and it was a Fish ploy to just throw you off the scent. And so that would lead me to believe that songs are on the table to be played again. However, yes, with these songs being pulled out of the netherworld, it would lead one to think um, they are in a position. Playing 5 more shows without playing the songs that were played in the first 2 nights would be very easy for this band. So I could
Right. I
totally
mean,
see it. I would
anything
also
played
not be
previous
surprised
to
if
New
they didn't.
York is on the table, right? So,
Yes, correct.
except for like even Man 2 is and whatever Syracuse is on the table after the first few nights
Correct. Yeah.
when they
Yeah.
come back around the rotation because it's not just a 7 night run. It's runs across like 10 days. So they
Right.
got plenty of time to bring stuff back without it feeling like it was just played.
I think that, and this was similar. They played Tweezer to open the second set of the first night of the Baker's Dozen, and then they played Disease to open the second set of the second night of the Baker's Dozen. And I remember those two moments created a lot of debate of, well, how did they go 13 shows in this massive run without playing Tweezer and Disease again? And I felt like those were intentionally played to almost fuck with the fan base and be like, hey, are you
They
Are you thinking we're going to do no repeats? Because we may, but we also may
they were
not.
easy picks though too. Like,
Right.
I know from what we've seen that Trey worked hard, and I feel like it wasn't quite he never quite said it. I feel like it was probably getting almost difficult, but still
Yeah.
just as fun by the end of the thing,
Yeah.
you know? Uh, but that, wasn't just a challenge to us. Like, haha, you think here, it was a challenge to Trey
It was, yeah,
to
yeah.
craft
It was
that
a
and to keep
lot of
doing it.
whiteboards with this
Yeah,
song and
yeah.
then this song, and I think the
Yeah.
only song that has been played thus far in these first two nights that I could see be played again, and I would like to see be played again, is Oblivion. Just because it's the new song. It had a really stunning performance in Pittsburgh. I really enjoyed last night's performance. It does feel, and maybe they'll pause it until Dick's, but it does feel like where Everything's Right was a couple years ago, where it's a song that the band clearly wants to showcase as a centerpiece, open
Yeah.
up set two with it, and really go places.
I
But
was really
speaking
hoping for
of,
Evolve to do that.
oh God, that like bright trilling jamming off of it, I would love that.
Speaking of
s-
opening up set 2 jamming.
right, and songs that from the not too distant past were kind of. Fuego was famously played as the first song of 2014. It came out of Light, or excuse me, the second song of 2014. They did Auld Lang Syne to close out 2013, then went into Light, very beautiful Light from 2013, and then that went into Fuego, and it kind of seemed like, all right, this is the next one. You're the next big song, and it had some great moments in 2014. We've talked about the history here. Last night, without getting into the nuances of minute by minute, because I just encourage people to really immerse themselves in it. This jam, to me, what I loved about it is it sounds like the band is in absolutely no hurry and no rush to get from one place to another. There's no worry about how long this jam is, or from both a crossing time standpoint, but also from a, hey, we're taking up a bunch of chunk of real estate by playing this. It's just communication from the band. It sounds to me like something that could have come off of the Victor disc, which is my big wish is that one day we get that email from fish.com that says, hey, we're releasing the Victor disc on vinyl, plus it's going on streaming services because it's really beautiful stuff. It sounds like a band playing in a living room with no thoughts about entertainment. They are just playing and communicating. And by default, because we are fans of this band and love that they do this sort of stuff, we are entertained and we are willing to ride it with them. And it gets a really nice earned peak at the end, but it's not, even if you listen back to the peak, like Trey's not playing very fast. It is building tension and it's building energy, and it's building enthusiasm towards the end, but it doesn't up its pace, and I love that about it. It just feels like they are just kind of cruising, and it's like a drive down the PCH with the sun just fading behind the Pacific Ocean in front, to your side, and the colors just like stretch out. They're beautiful, and it's kind of one of those moments that maybe it takes 45 minutes. And it's not this like immediate jolt of energy, but it is one of those memories that you're going to live with and you're going to last with. I loved it. This is one of my favorite jams that's been played this whole year. It's one of my favorite Fuegos that's ever been played. I've listened to it 3 times already. I
Wow.
can't get enough of it. I'm going to listen to it in the car ride on the drive here today up to Montana. It is everything for me that I want from this band, which is just that patient communication with absolutely no rush, full band, democratic. I'm totally stunned by it, and I cannot wait to revisit it again.
Well said. I'm actually looking forward to listening to it here this afternoon, after some more coffee and
There
a
you
few
go.
other things happen around the house. Um, so, Craig, I want to make sure we don't
Yeah, please.
omit talking about the fact that Cracklin' Rosie was a hilarious sort of train wreck, of a performance. Someone, I saw someone, and I can't credit because I can't remember who said it online last night, say, surely they were not planning this because they were clearly, and by they, I mean Fishman, clearly not prepared. And I totally agree that the segue into Hold Your Head Up out of 2001 is magical. Like, it's beautiful playing. And I think there's this moment, you can hear it, where the jam is like they're starting to play Hold Your Head Up, and Fishman is not yet playing Hold Your Head Up. And then finally comes back around. He's like, all right. And he, kicks it off, and now they're really playing it. And he's like, I guess this is happening. But yeah, he doesn't remember the words. He's not set up in front of one of the teleprompters.
Right.
He drags the microphone over to look at Trey's teleprompter where they finally put it up, I guess. Trey was trying to bail him out with some very prominent and well done backing vocals, I thought. But just a blast. And then Trey gets up and, Henrietta, which we don't get a Henrietta introduction,
Not
by
as
the way,
much,
that
no.
often. It's been a lot of Moses Heaps, etc. But then and says, if this is your first Fish show, that's what it's all about, folks. And I just wanted to be here on this platform today and say, I've been telling you that. All of you out there.
It is. It is. No, and you're right. I thought of you when that happened, and it's funny. Like, you get these meta moments from Trey where he kind of steps back and is like, "Hey, this is why we're all here. This is why we all return." I thought, just to add to it, the humor side of it, the fact that Fishman is standing on there just like staring at a teleprompter, trying to figure out what to play, like a theater actor in New York City, just like, I need a line in a rehearsal type of thing, where it's just like,
Yeah,
shit, like, I cannot believe right now I forgot this. But he's not worried. He, like, this is part of the gag that he doesn't know how to sing a Neil Diamond song.
it's
But
all fun.
also, it's all fun. But also, do you take it back 3 minutes? They're in an incredible groove in 2001. They've been playing the hell out of this song for the last couple of years. And for Trey to stumble upon, um, the HYHU riff and come out of 2001 into that, you get these two sides of Fish that is so brilliant. You get the improv that can lead anywhere, and it can lead to magical places, it can lead to hilarious places, it can lead to just these mind altering moments. But then you get the absolute humor, and the fact that this band, and I kept thinking about it, like, for this version of Cracklin' Rosie to be in the same set as this Fuego, this is a band that does not
Right?
take themselves seriously. They take the music seriously. And you see that right there in the open. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great placement for it. And it was just a really good yin and yang to who Fish is and what their appeal is. And you kind of, you know, why did they not catch on culturally, outside of the
Who
counterculture in the
cares?
1990s? Well, but the part of it is like the humor. It's not
Yeah.
very cool to be funny in that sort of way when you're playing music.
90s rock
Um,
was very serious, very
Very
serious.
serious, like angry, contemplative. And Fish was like, yeah, but we can kind of get on stage and think that this is hilarious that we're like playing in front of 20,000 people, and we got a drummer wearing a dress singing Neil Diamond songs. And like, you had it right there. It was amazing stuff. And just put a cap on, or put a bow on the set in a really nice way.
Yeah, I mean, that set right there is everything that Fish is,
Yeah,
most of them at
100%.
least. And then Santos to rap, nice encore, get a little bit of, you get your Farmhouse, you get your First Tube, and Good Night. And they ran right up on it, so that show ended like promptly at 11:30, but they used it up. I think they did an 80-minute second set, was it? And then
Yeah,
but then consistently 73 minutes for the first set. So pretty good, pretty solid.
very, very
Bodes
good
well for the
stuff.
ongoing ongoing run. I think anybody who's got any tickets ahead, It's true. You may not see a 30-minute Fuego, but you're gonna see some shit.
You're going to see some stuff that is very very special to see, even in the context of a band that regularly plays very special shows. So I'm very
Yeah.
excited to hear what happens. I'm going to be hitting the road here in a second and listening back through some of these highlights. I'm going to listen back through. It's a very special day in Phish history. Shout out to Camden '03. Shout out to Jimmy's Night from a few years ago. The Ventura Bowie Cities Bowie. Lots of stuff to dip into before Phish comes back. Based on our time of doing this podcast, I guess that's 19 hours from now. I don't know, give or take a few. But
Too
you
mathy.
all, too mathy. You all have yourself a wonderful Sunday. If you're in New York City, um, go down to Chinatown and get a bowl of noodles. I've always found that that's a really great way to kind of balance things out in between MSG shows. But hope everyone out there is keeping safe, keeping cool, having a good time. Jonathan, I hope you have a wonderful Sunday, and I'll see you on the other side of this.
You bet. Take care.